My mother-in-law bought everyone Christmas gifts except my son. She said he doesn't count because he's from my first marriage. I stood in her living room at the family Christmas party watching every kid tear into presents. Designer clothes, new tablets, expensive toys. The wrapping paper was everywhere. Kids screaming with excitement, parents taking photos. My 9-year-old stepson sat on the couch, empty-handed, trying not to cry. He'd been so excited on the drive over, kept asking if Grandma Linda got him something cool this year. My wife squeezed my hand in the car, whispering that her mom had been weird about him lately, but surely she wouldn't exclude him on Christmas. We were wrong. When he finally asked where his gift was, Linda looked at him and said, "Oh, honey, these are for my real grandchildren. You understand, right?" She said it so casually, like she was explaining why cats don't bark. My son's face crumpled. He nodded and stared at his hands. My wife froze mid-sip of her wine. Her siblings went quiet, suddenly very interested in their phones. Nobody defended him, not one person. Linda's husband just coughed and walked into the kitchen. My wife's brother actually chuckled nervously like it was an awkward joke. I grabbed our coats and we left without saying a word. My son cried the entire drive home. Not the loud kind of crying, the silent kind where tears just stream down and you can barely breathe. That's worse. My wife kept turning around from the passenger seat trying to comfort him, but what do you say? How do you explain that to a kid? That night after he went to bed, my wife and I sat in the kitchen. She kept making excuses for her mom, said Linda just needed more time to adjust to our blended family, that maybe we caught her on a bad day, that she probably didn't mean it the way it sounded. I asked her if our son's face looked like Linda didn't mean it. She went quiet. Then she started crying, saying her mom had always been difficult, but family is family, that we should give her another chance, that cutting her off would just make things worse. I told her I wasn't cutting anyone off. I was just done pretending this was normal. The next morning, I called our lawyer. Linda had been listed as a secondary beneficiary on a trust fund my late father set up for my son when he was born, worth about $180,000, set to fully transfer to him at 25. My dad died when my son was 2, and in his grief brain, I'd listed family members as backups in case something happened to me. Linda was on there because at the time, she was my mother-in-law and seemed like a stable choice. She'd also been receiving monthly statements for years because she was listed as a trustee contact, meaning she knew exactly how much was in there and watched it grow. I had everything changed. My son became the sole beneficiary. I removed Linda entirely and replaced her with my brother. The lawyer said it was completely within my rights since I was the primary account holder. Took about 45 minutes of paperwork. My wife wasn't happy when I told her, but she didn't fight me on it. Deep down, she knew her mom had crossed a line. For 3 weeks, everything was quiet. Linda didn't call to apologize, didn't text, nothing. My wife reached out once to check in, and Linda just said we were being dramatic and that kids need to learn not everyone gets the same things in life. That was her explanation. Then my phone rang at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. My wife answered and I heard screaming through the speaker. Linda was hysterical, yelling about betrayal and family and how could we do this to her. My wife kept asking what she was talking about. Linda finally calmed down enough to explain. Apparently she'd been bragging to her church friends for months about how her grandson's trust fund would help her retire early. She'd been planning to buy a condo in Florida, something small near the beach. Said she'd worked hard her whole life and deserved it. She'd even put down a $15,000 deposit last month using her savings, banking on the trust money being accessible once my son turned 18 and she could convince him to help his grandma out. Her financial advisor had apparently told her how these things could be restructured with the right legal approach. Now the trust statements stopped coming. She called the bank and they told her she was no longer listed on the account. The condo seller wanted the remaining $40,000 in 2 weeks or she'd lose her deposit. She was going to lose everything. My wife looked at me, phone still on speaker. Linda sobbing through the receiver asking what I did and why I would ruin her life like this. My wife asked me the same thing with her eyes, not accusatory, just tired and sad. I took the phone and said, "I made sure my real son's money stays with my real son. You understand, right?"